Councillors, can I have your attention please? I welcome you all to this meeting of the Cardinia Shire Council and now declare the meeting open. Please note that due to current COVID-19 restrictions, this meeting is being held in person with a limited gallery and webcast live over the internet. And I truly apologise. I know this meeting is being watched online, and I know there'll be many people that wanted to attend the gallery. So I do apologise that we could only allow 10 because of the COVID-19 restrictions that we still need to operate under. So for the 10 in the gallery, it's a bit of a golden ticket. Congratulations on you getting a ticket, but I do apologise for those many people that couldn't come in our gallery, and I do hope that you are watching live on the internet. So to start the meeting, we will say the prayer. Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Almighty God, we humbly request that you bestow your blessings upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of your glory and to the betterment of the peoples of Cardinia Shire. Amen.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Cardinia Shire Council respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional land of the Bunurong and Wurundjeri people and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Moving to apologies, I note that we have all councillors present. Nil apologies. We have received a number of community questions, and some of those questions have an interest relating to item 6.1.5 on tonight's agenda, which is the Beaconsfield Reservoir. So I am proposing to bring forward those community questions so we can listen to the questions and answers before we decide on that item. So I will move to that part of the proceedings. I think I do need to have a mover and seconder to propose that. Moved by Councillor Davies, seconded by Councillor Kowalczyk. Councillors, all those in favour to allow that, please indicate. Thank you, that's carried. So we'll move to community question time. We have received one question from Jennifer O'Brien. I will direct this question to the General Manager of Livable Communities, Mr. Nigel Higgins. Thank you. If you could read out the question, General Manager, and read out the answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. The question from Jen O'Brien is, what action has been taken to reinstate a fully operational maternal and child health service, and when can we expect the service to be provided? In response, thank you, Mrs. O'Brien, for your question that was submitted to Council on the 21st of April 2021. Cardinia Shire Council has transitioned post-COVID to a full-service maternity and child health for families, which also includes a number of strategies to increase our MCH workforce. So from the 1st of May, all appointments have been made available to our families and children. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. I will ensure that the resident will get a detailed written letter in response to that. Thank you. Moving on to, we have two questions from Rosa Santo, and I do note that Rosa is in the gallery. I direct the first question to the Acting Executive Manager, Office of the CEO, Ms. Debbie Tyson, and the second question to the General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment, Mr. Peter Benezek. So we'll go to Debbie first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your questions, Rosa. The first one, what is the percentage of income from rates not to have total revenue that is required to fund all staff costs, salaries, wages, labour contracts like sport administration, pools, basketball, superannuation and other costs, including specialised staff on retainers such as legal professionals and town consultants? In response, the total council employee costs as a percentage of total council rates and charges, including the cost recoveries based garbage charge, which is subsequently driven by the state government landfill levy, is forecast at 41.92% for the financial year 30th of June 2021 and 42.74% for the financial year ending 30th of June 2022. Thank you, Rosa.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms Tyson. I will now refer the next question to Mr Benezak.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Rosa, for your question. The question is, how many light vehicles are currently available to staff? And please identify the number allocated to staff as full private usage and how many fuel cards are issued to staff. Rosa, I can report that we have 103 light vehicles. 56 of those allocated to staff have private use, and it should be noted that where staff have private use, it forms part of their remuneration package. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr Benezak. Rosa, you'll be provided with written responses to those questions. We have received one question from Mr Tony Miller. I direct that question to the General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment, Mr Benezak. Again, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and excuse me, gallery, for my croaky voice. I'm recovering from a little bit of a cold, so I apologise for that in advance. Thanks, Mr Miller, for your question. What is Council doing to adopt and enforce compliance with Council's pointer board sign policy as drafted by the Compliance Services in 2020? The response to that, Mr Miller, is during 2020, the Compliance Services Office proposed changes to the use of pointer boards and sought feedback from real estate agents. Some of the changes proposed would have required changes to the local law. It was the intention to incorporate the necessary changes into a review of the local law that was expected during 2020. The full review of the local law did not proceed due to the pandemic. However, the feedback of real estate agents has been of great assistance and will form the basis of recommendations when the review of the local law is completed in the second half of 2021. This may involve some changes in respect to the pointer boards. Real estate agents will have a further opportunity to express their views about pointer board use, both supportive of them and not, as part of the local law review in the second half of 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Benezak. Obviously, a written response will be forwarded as well. We have one question from Alyssa Smith, and I know Alyssa is in the gallery. This question is going to be read and responded to by Mr Nigel Higgins. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The question from Alyssa Smith reads, as someone who has grown in the area and works as an aquatic educator in the area for 30 years, why isn't the Beaconsfield Reservoir your responsibility to manage, just like Emerald Lake is? I am also curious as to why this council and listed stakeholders in the previous and future management of the Beaconsfield Reserve haven't engaged with a registered Aboriginal group, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrungeri, for their knowledge of the area. I have recently discovered my own hidden connection to the First Nations people of the area and feel that the issue of repairing the wall to maintain the water level has not had the full consultative engagement with the RAP or the community to just allow Melbourne Water to remove such a valuable asset to the Cardinia Shire. The water needs to stay, as it is to maintain the ecology that is now developed there. This is a social, environmental, historical, educational and cultural gem that all stakeholders should be party to. In response to that question, council officers do recognise the value of the Beaconsfield Conservation Nature Reserve and the associated ecology. The Beaconsfield Conservation Nature Reserve has been the responsibility of the state government for more than 100 years for a particular purpose, and this is now managed for the state by DWELP, a state government department. The Emerald Lake Park site has a different purpose. It is a council responsibility and is managed by council. The Beaconsfield Conservation Nature Reserve is state government land set aside to be managed by DWELP and falls out of the scope of the RAP's reach. Officers will, though, provide your valuable questions to DWELP to respond to you directly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Higgins, and I will provide you with a further written response, Alyssa. Thank you. Moving on to the final question. We've got a question from Cheryl Billing-Smith. I will direct that question to the General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment, Mr Peter Benezak. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you for your question, Ms Smith. I'll read out the question. I do not believe that it is at all reasonable for Council to suggest that decisions about the fate of the BNCR are not theirs to make. The BNCR is Crown land. It is owned by us all. It may be managed by Melbourne Water and DELP on behalf of all Victorians. However, it is not theirs to own. Surely the BNCR is a valuable part of Cardinia's biolink. There are many community groups and individuals in Cardinia who wish this reserve to be saved and secured for its heritage and its beauty and for our enjoyment. What are Council's plans in relation to securing the historical BNCR for the benefits of all residents and ratepayers and the flora and fauna that call it home? Thank you for your question. The officers consider the BNCR as an important of regional importance. It is the officers' understanding that DELP and Melbourne Water have the intention for the land to continue to be set aside as a nature reserve. The proposed works at the site are being project managed by Melbourne Water. The officers have a preference that the state government opens the reserve to the community and funds the ongoing maintenance activity, given that it's likely to have regional importance. In relation to Council's draft biolinks plan, the plan identifies the BNCR as a node, defined as a cluster of patches of vegetation considered to be crucial for supporting biodiversity and maintaining landscape connectivity to a broad range of animal types. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Benezik. Obviously, a written response will be forwarded to the questioner. Also, obviously, councillors will be discussing this item at length later on in the agenda. Councillors, moving to the normal agenda, minutes of previous meetings. Can I have a motion, please, to adopt the minutes of the previous meeting as listed in the paperwork? Moved Councillor Moore, seconded by Councillor Ryan. Councillors, all those in favour, please indicate. Show of hands. Thank you. Those against? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, are there any declarations you wish to declare at this point of time? I note that there is no declarations. Moving on to ordinary business. Council conducts its meetings according to a consent agenda. Councillors have advised of the matters for consideration this evening that they wish to discuss or debate. The remaining items will be adopted without discussion. I do note that every item has been withdrawn, so we'll be discussing every item and voting on every item separately. So the items withdrawn so far for tonight's proceedings are as follows. Item 6.1.1, South Eastern Australia Transport Strategy. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Moore. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. I move the Council support the membership proposal to rejoin the South Eastern Australian Transport Strategy, known as SEATS, from here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Can I have a second to councillors? Councillor Ross. I note Councillor Ross. Moving on to the mover to speak. Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you, Councillor Ross, for your second. I appreciate the support. We've been approached to rejoin this important organisation called SEATS, being a member of a number of years up until 2011. We opted to cease our membership for many reasons. We require this as a notice of council, as we're doing tonight, to undertake to re-establish our membership. The group called SEATS is an advocating body for local government regarding road infrastructure over a 25-year period, so it's a very important issue within our Shire. Joining this group, we will be involved in many major projects within our Shire, like the Princess Highway upgrades which are being done at the moment, electric vehicles charging stations, which is something very special I think will be in the future. Active transport, which is like bike tracks and rail trails, and more importantly, of course, the South East Airport. These are things that will be advocated through this wonderful organisation. This group will assist our ever-increasing carnage on the roads of our network that we have these days, which has been advertised quite often. So I'm sure in the least that is devastating, as you know, and it's a mere $7,280, the annual fee, to rejoin this group, I think is pretty reasonable, and is already able to be absorbed within our budgets as it is. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave it at that, and I'll leave some words of wisdom from my seconder. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Moving on to the seconder, Councillor Ross. Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. It's noted that we become members again of this group. I must say, when we ceased to become members back in 2011, we were extremely frustrated that everything we put up didn't get a Guernsey. I feel we're in a different position now. Our population has increased substantially. We have major need for expansion on road and advocacy in these areas to hopefully have more support when we get funding for them. I think it is a good move. I think it's, as Councillor Moore said, for the opportunity to get in the millions of dollars back towards building some of this important infrastructure, $7,280 to be a member is worth giving a go. I look forward to reports coming back in the next year or so to see how we've gone and what the advocacy's done for Cardinia Shire. So I just think it's a good move. Put your hand back in the pie and see how we go. I must say, one of the things I didn't see on here was in the past we used to look for, and it will be in some of the major things here, but towards Lang Lang, towards the sand mines down there, we were always looking for more money to go towards the projects that we've had outstanding for about 12 years down there for more funding, because as those sand pits provide so much of Melbourne's construction sand, those roads have got busier and busier down there, and all we need is a bit more government support to actually put them in place to lighten the load on those people who live down there. Anyway, that was one of the reasons we got out of it in the past, but I do see the amount of urgent need we have in the roads area is something that council just can't afford to spend all their money on. But if we get government support on this, that would be huge and a great result for our residents. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Moore, for bringing this up.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other speakers, either for or against? I go to Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So as well as being a councillor, I've worked in civil engineering roles in transport for the past 15 years, and integrated transport that's not just roads, and it actually considers the movement of people. That's what we want. We want to be able to get where we need to go, and that's not always via car. A lot of our population are youth, or they may be may not have the means to provide a car, but they still need to get around. Transport, and specifically the congestion on our road network, is number one in terms of the major gripes of our constituents at Cardinia. And the numerics, they actually justify the investment. Our population growth alone is massive. The delays on the network and the actual cost can be analysed and attributed. So it's not good enough, and by joining this advocacy body, we are positioning ourselves to get a better result when we're advocating to the state and the feds for the investment. So I'm very supportive of this, both as a councillor and as somebody that does work in the industry. And I want to see a solution where we consider integrated transport and a multimodal solution for Cardinia moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other speakers? Before I go to the mover, I just want to thank councillors for the discussion on this item. Definitely, in recent months, I've met with the people behind seats, and I personally believe it is time that we rejoin this advocacy. We have lots of work to do in this space, and as listed in the agenda, we've got major federal and state election advocacy campaigns that roads will be, and transport will be a priority for this council. So we'll be seeking their assistance in that space, advocating for electric vehicle charging networks, advocating for Princess Highway road upgrades, advocating for the South Gippsland Highway, advocating for road safety. And tonight we do have an urgent business item which relates to road safety, and this is a real issue within our community, road safety. So having seats assisting us in this advocacy space would be great, and of course advocating for a South East airport. So thank you, councillors, and I fully support this investment in this. I'll go to Councillor Moore to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. There's not much more I can say, but I want to thank my fellow councillors, and you, Mayor Owen, for your input. This is a partnership. We're talking about partnerships here, a very worthy partnership. The Lang Lang bypass is the item that Councillor Ross may have been referring to. Is very important. Of course, the Thompson Road extension is included in these, which includes the building of a bridge over Cardinia Creek, which is probably the biggest issue with the Thompson Road extension. And this group here are the way to achieve it, to advocate with partnerships, like I said before, linking local government, federal government with local councils together. That's what this group's doing. So I think it's a great investment, councillors. And I ask my fellow councillors to please join with me and have a positive vote here tonight in reinstating this fantastic body in our group. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillors, I'll put the item for a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 6.1.2, Sealing the Hills, Caroline Avenue, Cockatoo. Catchment Special Charge Scheme Notice of Intention. So this item has been withdrawn by Councillor Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 acknowledge the majority landowner support as set out in this report to contribute to the construction of Caroline Avenue, Baronia Crescent and Ruin Road, Cockatoo, as shown in Attachment 2, including sealed pavement, curb and channel and associated drainage and incidental works. 2, approve the assessment of the benefit ratio for the proposed special rate and charge scheme as set out in Attachment 3 of the report. 3, adopt the proposed area of the scheme and method of appointment as set out in Attachments 2 and 4, respectively. 4, give notice of intention to declare a special charge scheme in accordance with the proposed declaration set out in Attachment 5 to fund the construction of Caroline Avenue, Baronia Crescent and Ruin Road, Cockatoo. 5, consider the declaration, Attachment 5, at its meeting of 19th of July 2021 or such later date as necessary. 6, appoint the Mayor and or Ward Councillor and General Manager, Infrastructure and Environment as a council committee with a quorum of 1 to consider submissions received to Section 223 of the Local Government Act with respect to this scheme. 7, authorise the General Manager, Infrastructure and Environment to determine the administrative arrangements to enable submissions to be heard and considered. And 8, approve the public notice as set out in Attachment 6 to be advertised in the Pakenham Berwick Gazette and Hills Trader as newspapers that service the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Can I ask for a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Davies. I note that. Going back to the mover, Councillor Springfield, to speak to this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, there was a lot of dot points to be mentioned there in the officer's recommendation, but I thought it was important to do this at this point in time because it is the very first one we are going to undertake in this special charge scheme rollout of the Sealing the Hills scheme. Thanks to the federal government funding that we received 2 years ago as an election promise from the Honourable Jason Wood. So this is great that we've got to this point right now where we can see this moving ahead, and this is the first set of roads that will be constructed under this wonderful project we're running. I'd like to say a huge thank you to community groups such as Craig 21 for their advocacy in this enabling this project to see the light of day. If it wasn't for the community groups working with council, advocating to the federal government back in early 2019, we wouldn't have the funds available to undertake this amazing project we have in front of us. And it really is fantastic. It is moving forward as a special charge scheme for most of the residential roads that will be sealed, with a proposal of a $7,000 contribution from each resident, each rateable unit property in the roads that are sealed. Now, this is a massive reduction compared to what it would cost otherwise if it was only going to fall on the landholders and council to pay for this thing. Majority of this is being funded from this wonderful funding provided by the federal government. And it is really great to see and to announce this very first project. Caroline Avenue and the surrounding roads there right in front of the Cockatoo Primary School has been in need of this for a long time. Well utilised, it's terrible conditions sometimes. And we have an issue with this, with dirt roads, unsealed roads across our Shire, councillors. We fall in this unique position as Cardinia Shire where we're on the fringe, we found out during COVID that we are considered Metro Council, but many of our residents, do feel like we live in rural areas. And as such, we have about 860 kilometres of unsealed roads to maintain within our Shire. This project as a whole, as it moves forward, we'll see a good proportion of that over the next 10 years sealed and delivered to the benefit of the community. And so it's with great pleasure today that I bring to you this very first project in this scheme. So thank you, Mayor. I'll leave this to other councillors for any further discussion.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Davies. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I've noticed the capped contribution of $7,000. This is significantly smaller than the legislated charges for special charge schemes that would apply in other municipalities or generally. The sealing of unsealed roads is very important for both the environmental outcomes, but also for road safety. And this is a really good outcome for the Rangers Ward. And congratulations to Councillor Springfield and the many people that have put their efforts into achieving this. I'm hopeful that Council will be able to access similar programs in the future to address the unsealed roads that are south and east of Rangers Ward, because that would be of great benefit. And unfortunately, we've got a lot of unsealed roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other speakers, either for or against? Before I go back to Councillor Springfield, I just want to say a few comments as well. Thank you, Councillor Springfield and Davies, for detailing this item. But I also want to thank Cockatoo Road Action Group 21, as Councillor Springfield did mention before. I've never seen a more professional advocacy community group than they were. Very professional, the way they conducted themselves, dealing with council, communicating with the community, advocating at all levels of government, and obviously with that fantastic announcement at the last federal election to make this a real reality. So I just want to thank Crag 21. I know there's members of the committee in the gallery, so thank you. You were just really professional when I was a councillor for Rangers Ward with Councillor Springfield and Councillor Wilmot. You were a fantastic group, so congratulations for all your amazing efforts. And I know it's just the start of a long list of roads that we're going to seal in Cockatoo. But it is a game changer, as mentioned before. People's lives will change as a result of sealing these roads. These roads are, particularly in the centre of Cockatoo, a main township in Cardinia. Obviously schools are on unmade roads, and this will fix that. We will still go to the state government to get some further funding around the school environment, around parking and signing, etc. But this will really have a wider community benefit for Cockatoo. Not just the residents on this road will have a wider community benefit, and that's why this one was a priority in the list. So I will go back to Councillor Springfield to sum up this item. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. And I completely agree with your sentiments that you just put forward. And again, commend the fantastic work that Crag 21 did as an advocacy group. It's really wonderful to see in action. So thank you. Look, just to mention that this is, this point in time, what we're moving today is a step in the process for this first scheme that's happening, right? Because it is going through a special charge scheme, it's a legislative process, so it requires a number of steps to make sure we have thorough community consultation and engagement, and make sure that we deliver the right product at the end of the day. So Look, as I mentioned at the start, there is majority landholder initial support at this point in time. What I'm asking today is that, we endorse this special charge scheme and it'll go through the next steps and processes. Those steps and processes will include an option for any residents within this road that wish to put in an objection or comments towards this. There will be held and there will be a hearing, as I mentioned at point 6 of this, to evaluate and hear any submissions to that effect. So this is not the be-all and end-all of it. It's just the first step in the process, and this is the first scheme amongst many that we'll be seeing coming across our table in the coming months and years. So I endeavour, councillors, I won't always read out every one of the officer's recommendations for these, but I just thought it was important to do it this very first time, so we can really hear and we can celebrate the wonderful work we're undertaking here. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll put the item 6.1.2, Sealing the Hills, Caroline Avenue, Cockatoo Catchment, up to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you. Any against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.1.3, Sealing the Hills, Princess Avenue, Emerald, Catchment Special Charge Scheme, Notice of Intention. So I'll go to Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move the officer's recommendations as listed.
Thank you. We note that. Councillor Springfield, can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Davies. Going back to the mover, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Davies. So this is the second project we're tipping off, which is wonderful, 2 in one night. So this is for a couple of roads in Emerald, Princess Avenue, and Crichton Avenue that connects onto that. So again, all the things I said last time, I don't have to repeat them again. They kind of... they obtain to this as well, but it's wonderful to see this little road, and it's not a huge road. This one, it's very close to the township, just above Nobelius Heritage Park, but it'll be a great advancement to see this road sealed, along with the other works that go entail with that, and it'll be a great benefit to all the residents that live down there. So I hope to receive the support tonight from my council colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Councillors, any other speakers either for or against? Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Springfield, for withdrawing these items. I must say, special charge schemes are a really great thing on council, where you can partner with either council or other federal bodies to put your money towards building extra roads. If we had to rely upon no money from the community, there would be so much less done than what can be done. I certainly hope the people in the hills take this great opportunity up. I think it was over 15 or 20 years ago, there was another specialist charge scheme that was up in Cockatoo. And I know some of the people didn't get on board because when they were seeing how much it was going to cost them to get involved, when the final notice came to them that they had to sign up, there wasn't enough people to sign up. So therefore it didn't go ahead. But this time, with much more money put in, that they would have to put in less money than they would have probably back then. I hope they do take the opportunity, because it is a wonderful opportunity. You probably won't get another opportunity like this again for quite a long time, and in those roads it is really imperative that the drainage is improved and the roads are sealed with curb and channel as well, because it will make such a difference. Whenever you get a big rain up there, as much as council would love to have the roads in a great condition, it only needs a couple of really adverse weather conditions, and all of a sudden it just turns from great to terrible really quickly, as much as we try and fix it. So I hope they do take this on board. I do hope they embrace it, and we finish up with some wonderful roads, which is a great opportunity. Thank you for raising this.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other speakers, either for or against? Before I go back to Councillor Springfield, and sorry, the seconder, I will say some brief comments. As stated before in the previous item, this is a statutory process and it's the start of that statutory process, but the preliminary estimated cost of the proposed works is $972,000, of which $70,000 is being proposed to be funded via the special charge scheme, so that is by the residents. So majority, the $902,000, is being funded from the Australian Government grant, and I do thank the Australian Government for the commitment to this program. Of the 12 properties surveyed, Council received 10 responses. 9 of these responses indicated support to contributing to the scheme, with only 1 who indicated opposition. So 9/10 supported this special charge scheme. So following consideration of the survey questionnaire responses, a special charge scheme has been prepared to fund the construction of Princess Avenue and Crichton Road. As stated before, Nobelia's Heritage Park and the Emerald Museum is at the end of Crichton Avenue, and Council acknowledges that the park generates traffic, and that's why we are contributing via the Australian Government grant the vast majority of the funds. This will also be very important to the museum and the Heritage Nobelia's Park because it's a great asset in our Shire, tourism destination, and this will now be served by a sealed road and some improvements around the car parking, I understand, as part of this project. So this is a great outcome for these residents, but also the Emerald Museum and tourists in the area. I will go to Councillor Davies as a seconder if she wished to talk.
Thank you, Mayor, but I will reserve my right to speak.
Okay. No worries. Note that. I will go back to the mover, Councillor Springfield, to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. And again, this is a first step in the process for this catchment of roads, which is, the notice of intention. So that one resident that had an objection to this scheme moving forward will have the opportunity to table their concerns and be heard by the panel. And all this will be taken on board before we proceed. It's quite a robust process. In the interest of having the best amount of consultation and communication we can with all the residents affected. So thank you, Mayor, and I hope that my councillors will support this scheme moving forward also. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I put item 6.1.3, Sealing the Hills, Princess Avenue, Emerald Catchment, Special Charge Scheme Notice of Intention, up to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Any against? That's carried unanimously. Moving on to the next item, which is item 6.1.4, the Upper Beaconsfield Recreation Reserve New Community Building Petition Response. So this item has been withdrawn by Councillor Springfield. Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council 1 note the petition received requesting Council allocate funding in the 2021-22 financial year budget for the development of proposed redevelopment of youth, community and sporting facilities at the Upper Beaconsfield Reserve. 2, note that there is funding available in the 2020/21 and draft 21-22 financial year budgets to prepare a buildings master plan and concept design and associated cost estimate for the proposed new community, sport and scout facility at Upper Beaconsfield Reserve. 3, note that there is funding towards the construction of the proposed new community, sports and scout facility at Upper Beaconsfield Reserve in future years of the draft 10-year capital works program. 4, note council officers will continue to work with the Upper Beaconsfield Reserve Committee of Management, reserve user groups and general community to finalise the buildings master plan and develop a concept design and associated cost estimate for the proposed new community, sport and scout facility at Upper Beaconsfield Reserve. 5, note the buildings master plan and concept design for the proposed new community, sport and scout facility at Upper Beaconsfield Reserve will be brought to council for approval before submission to the Reserve Committee and DALP for landholder approval. And 6, inform the President of the Upper Beaconsfield Reserve Committee of Management of the above resolution. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Davies. Thank you. I'll go back to the mover, Councillor Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel like I'm the protagonist in this film tonight. All this talking, but that's all right. Soon enough, I'll hold my peace for the rest of the night. Look, I'm very happy to present this position that came forward previously, and from the advocacy of the stakeholders down there. Look, it is needed. Now, there's upgrades needed across many facilities in our Shire, but this facility certainly has been in dire need of some upgrading and has been advocated for many years since I've been on council to see these improvements. So I strongly support the officer's recommendations to see us allocate some funding, further funding in future budgets to achieve the best outcome and see these new facilities developed. And I also note that we've had these discussions over the last couple of years, and we have allocated funding to this point, but, I am supportive of seeing more funding allocated to make sure that these facilities can become a reality to meet the needs of that community well into the future. I'll leave it there for now, Mayor, but thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Davies, if you wish to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Whilst I'm not local to Upper Beaconsfield and live in Pakenham, I have taken a lot of interest in this, and whilst all pavilions and all investments do need to be prioritised on a Shire-wide basis, I do hope that all of them, including the Upper Beaconsfield Rec Reserve, can achieve the funding they need and keep enjoying their space. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this item? All right, there being none, before I go back to the mover, I'll speak as the ward councillor. I do note that there was over 200 signatories to this petition when I tabled this petition at the last council meeting. I do note that there is a real need to upgrade these community facilities at Upper Beaconsfield. They are multi-use facilities. We've got scouts, we've got cricket, we've got junior football. The school's right next door as well, and at the Upper Beaconsfield Primary School would love a improved facility abutting their school, abutting the recreation reserve. So I do note, as the report says, that council has committed funds in the 2021-22 council budgets to design these new community facilities. So that's happening at the moment, and I've been working with our rec team, the Committee on Management and user groups in guiding that design process. So that's happening now, and I look forward to that being completed. Cost estimates given, and as a councillor, I will continue to advocate when appropriate funding grant opportunities are available. For instance, building better regions, growing suburbs fund. From my perspective, I'll be advocating around the council chamber for council to use those grant opportunities and also for future council budgets. I do note, as the report says, it is in our 10-year capital works program, but as one councillor, I'll be advocating that we advocate for grant applications to bring forward those works. I also note that in the draft 21-22 council budget that's out for consultation period at the moment, council is also proposing a $50,000 spend for a recreation reserve master plan for Upper Beaconsfield. So that's separate to the design of the buildings. It's a master plan for the reserve, and I think it is timely that council does this because there's so many users of that reserve, and we need to have a bit of a coordinated approach regarding all those users and the long-term future of the reserve. So I'm really pleased that's in the draft budget. But these facilities are tied. The community up there deserves a much better facility for the community, and I see this will be a great advocacy piece in the lead up to the next state and federal government elections as well. So I support this report, and I'll go back. So Councillor Ross, I will allow that, but yeah, you want to speak? Yep, I'll allow that. I'll not go to the mover, I'll go to you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to endorse the importance of master plans. I can remember back in 2010, the Mayor put up for a master plan at Officer Recreational Reserve, and that was the thing in the pile that wasn't there. So therefore, you really couldn't apply for grants because the master plan wasn't done of detail enough that you could send it forward. Excuse me, to point out with the draft. Which stages, that would be likely to be put into place, and roughly council had done their homework on the site. This is really important, so I think it's great that money's being spent there, that we can actually find out what needs to be done, and we've got some exact details, because otherwise, without that, when you apply for grants, your likelihood of success is really marginal. So all our sites finish up with master plans on development, because without them, the chances of success is really marginal. And we can see with Officer Reserve, it probably didn't progress as fast as a lot of people would like, but still, it has been getting towards completion now. So I look forward to seeing the master plan come back and see what's in that. Thank you for pointing that out, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. I will go back to the mover, Councillor Springfield, to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and my fellow councillors, for your words. Look, I do really look forward to seeing this concept design being developed, and the master plan, the buildings master plan and the reserve master plan into the future being developed also. It is timely, but it's also timely that we get these plans in order first, and these designs and everything, to make sure that we utilise these assets to the best of their ability, and we don't leave anything off table when it comes to what we need to deliver for all these stakeholders and user groups. And it's a unique area up in Upper Beaconsfield. There's many stakeholders and user groups there, the school included, and it's a beautiful little community up there too. So I do look forward to seeing the future development of this facility and the further development of this site. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I put this item 6.1.4, the Upper Beaconsfield Recreation Reserve New Community Building Petition response, be up for a vote. All those in favour, please indicate by show of hands. Thank you. Any against? Unanimously carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 6.1.5, report in response to the Beaconsfield Reservoir. I will now go to Councillor Springfield to move his alternative motion.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move that Council, 1, note the officer's report, 2, recognises the Beaconsfield Reservoir and Nature Conservation Reserve as a place of highly significant environmental, community and cultural importance for our region. A wonderful natural asset that has great potential for community environmental benefit into the future. 3, requests that all responsible state government authorities work together with the local community to develop a long-term strategic plan that delivers the best outcomes for the environment and community interests. 4, requests that no further works are to be considered or proceed with the reservoir's dam wall until such time that this future strategic document is developed and created. 5, advocate to the relevant state government departments to undertake a thorough environmental assessment of the reservoir and the greater BNCR, including a report on the impact that any future developments would have on the environment within. 6, requests that Melbourne Water make publicly available the safety assessment report, which has identified the potential risk of the reservoir wall failing. 7, acknowledges the petition which is currently before the State Government of Victoria, which is requesting the retention of the current reservoir water level. 8, highly commends the work that the Cardinia Environment Coalition has undertaken in managing the reserve and advocates for ongoing recurrent funding to manage the BNCR into the future. 9, advocate for the state government to assign a park manager role to a state government agency for a significant reserve of regional importance. 10, indicate support for the improved recreational facilities and greater access to the reserve for the general public. 11, is supportive of Melbourne Water taking necessary action to ensure the safety of our community, and we ask that thorough community consultation and communication is undertaken regarding any future plans or developments for this site. And 12, requests a future report to be presented to Council responding to the additional information to be provided by the Victorian Government and Melbourne Water, and further report to respond to Notice of Motion 1058 when the information is made available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I note your alternate motion. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Radford. Thank you. I'll go to the mover, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for indulging my long list of recommendations in the alternative motion. But look, it is my intention to try and capture the best place we can position ourselves as a Shire, as a council, moving forward to advocate for the community's desires in this space. And it has been, we well understand the community's interests in this reserve and this area. We've received much correspondence over the last few weeks relating to this, and many conversations. It has a lot of significance, this site. It's a massive site, right in the heart of our Shire, so to speak. So many environmental benefits and so many potential uses in the future. There's been a lot of concern around Melbourne Water's, position that there needs to be safety works considered on the dam wall to reduce the height in order to ensure community safety into the future. What I'm basically requesting amongst all these dot points here is that I think we need to develop a plan for what this site will look like in the future before we consider any works to proceed. What is it going to look like? What is the best outcome to achieve for the environment and for community usage? And we really don't have the information on hand to make an informed decision on this, and it has not been provided to us. It has not been undertaken from the relevant state government authorities to this point in time, and I would like to see this engagement to proceed before consideration of works that cannot be undone once they are done. We have time on our hands, in my opinion, I believe, to develop a real concept of what is the best case scenario for the usage of this site in the future. And until such time that that is undertaken by the relevant state authorities and the community stakeholders, then we shouldn't see anything proceed until that occurs, in my opinion. Look, I will also note too that the heading, there has been some confusion in the community. The heading for this report within the meeting agenda that was publicly advertised is titled wrong. And look, it was just a mistake that was made in the administration. It shouldn't be titled a report in response to the Beaconsfield Reservoir Petition, because it's not. It should have been a report in response to Notice of Motion 1058, which Councillor Owen brought forward to this council chamber back in November. And just to make that note for the record that there was a mistake there, I apologise on behalf of our officers who were responsible for putting this report together, but it's just an honest mistake that occurred, but it's worth noting. Look, I'll leave it there for now, Mayor, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. I'll go to Councillor Radford as seconder to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Springfield, for withdrawing this item for discussion, and it has been a very long discussion on this item. Thank you to Peter Benezek for all the work you've put into this report. It's also important to thank the Committee of Management, the CEC, who have been managing the maintenance of this reserve on a shoestring budget. Thank you to all the community members and organisations for their emails in support of or against Melbourne Water's proposal to decommission the existing reservoir dam wall. It is important that Council hears your opinion, and we appreciate you all taking the time to send us your emails. Thank you. I feel it is also important to acknowledge that there were many differing opinions that we received. Many expressing their concern about the stability of the 100-year-old reservoir dam wall and the impact it would have on their communities located downstream if it did fail. This concern cannot be discounted, and although it is a low risk, it should be considered in any future plans. There were also many who expressed the loss they would feel if the wall was partially reduced, having not only an emotional connection with this site, but the value of the heritage importance they see this site has for our Shire. There were many other opinions expressed, which have been noted and considered. I strongly support Councillor Springfield's alternative motion today and the intent behind it. Council's role is one of advocacy, and the points listed within this alternative motion supports that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Any other speakers for or against? Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, as councillors, we're not elected to do structural engineering critiques on dam walls. We are here to represent our community and its best interests, so now and in the future. And our community's made a huge effort to speak to us, and I also want to thank each and every person who contacted me. I heard fascinating information about the reservoir and the reserve, including the historical significance, Aboriginal and cultural heritage, biodiversity, the passive and active and recreational opportunities, and also the commercial and educational future potential of this site. Unfortunately, none of this has been appropriately assessed and presented. The southeast, so Cardinia, along with our neighbours Bawba and Casey, already have the same population as Tasmania, so over 500,000 people. And we're also a growth corridor and one of the fastest in the country. Now, Melbourne Water, who have contacted us with their proposals and their suggested actions, are a state government agency, but they had one goal, and to make the reservoir wall safe and for the least cost possible. The planning arms of the state's Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning, known as DWELP, of which Melbourne Water sits within, are busily acquiring land right across Melbourne to develop regional parks. Yet here is one ready-made and available. It's already under state control on Crown land. And yes, getting it ready, it requires dollars, but these are dollars that are being made available elsewhere. I believe, as a resident of Cardinia and as a councillor, that we do deserve and justify this amazing reserve being funded, being accessible, being utilised and being protected. And our local state MP, Brad Batten, is the politician in control of the area, and he's already indicated his support. A letter was received by council last week indicating so. I was incredibly excited to read it. So I do support the content within Deputy Mayor Springfield's motion and urge the state to realise this potential of the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other speakers wishing to speak either for or against? Councillor Kowaczyk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be very brief. I'll be supporting Councillor Springfield's alternate motion tonight. I just wanted to thank the CEC, also the wider community, for their input and keen interest in the topic. Whenever community takes such an active role, I think it's a good thing. And obviously, as much as passions are running high, councillors have a responsibility to ensure we do all due diligence before we make decisions, both collectively and individually. This alternate motion helps us to achieve that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kowazik. Any other speakers? Before I go to the mover, I'll say some brief comments. I want to also acknowledge the many pieces of correspondence. I think it's well over 50 from different authors. I do also acknowledge the current petition that's out there that will be tabled in State Parliament. I think it's approaching over 1,000 signatures regarding the request to retain the dam wall height and the water levels. I thank Councillor Springfield. We did workshop this alternate motion at length this afternoon, but thank you for your lead in this. I think it's very difficult for council to have a position when there's so many unknowns on such a big, issue. I call upon the state government authorities to really actively engage with our local community regarding this issue, options, etc. I attended a number of community meetings that was conducted by Melbourne Water and other government departments. That was going, probably around about 2018, and my understanding is that the proposal has changed since then, and the community needs to be fully informed regarding all the issues, information surrounding this proposal. What are the costs? What are the environmental impacts? What will future access to the site look like? The ongoing management, and I also thank the Cardinia Environment Coalition who land manage the nature reserve, the Beaconsfield Conservation Nature Reserve, on almost a shoestring budget. It's not recurrent. They got to rely on going to government authorities for annual grants. There is no recurrent funding for what they do. It is pristine bush. It is beautiful bush. So we need to hear from the government what are their plans for recurrent funding on the ongoing management of this reserve. I want to know with which option, what is the environment impact? With bringing trucks into the site, what's it going to look like? If the wall needs to be, improved, what is the impact to the land? Where are the traffic movements? What is it going to look like? That is unknown. What is going to be the outcome of the water body? If we, with any of the options, will it be worse or better than what we've got now? I think these are the information that I think we really need more answers on. So I am really uncomfortable unless we've got this information which we request for. It's really difficult as a councillor to make a decision on this issue without knowing these facts. So I call upon the state government, as listed in the alternate motion, of things that we are requesting so we can be informed, so the community can be informed on this issue. I will go back to Councillor Springfield to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to my fellow councillors for your words on this topic. And I agree precisely with what the Mayor has said just then. We need more information and communication to be shared with us from the responsible state government authorities. And future planning, like there has been this discussion to now that's led to this. Of decommissioning the wall, reducing the water level, but what is the future plan for the site, and will that fit into the best case scenario for the best environmental benefits and community benefits to utilise this as a possible recreation facility and nature reserve into the future? A lot of unknowns, and it's only sensible and reasonable to request that we put the work in the background first to understand this better before any of the state authorities make a decision that cannot be reversed. And if the dam wall is decommissioned and reduced, it can't be built again. We don't know what the impacts will have on the environment, but it will certainly, it won't be amended. So our request is, as listed, just please have this further consideration before there are any plans move forward to proceed with any such works. And again, perhaps I like to look on the bright side, cup half full type of thing, you know. And at least this has really started a conversation, which I haven't had previous to this, about this nature reserve, you know. It's no one's listed there. The amount of actual residents that I think had visited it before this conversation came to the table last year, I would be able to count them on the hands of the councillors in this room. It's not a lot. I only visited myself due to this. So the community interest that has been raised and ignited within this, I think there's going to be a great positive that's going to come from this in the long term, as long as we have proper consideration and the state government includes some of these steps as listed towards a future plan. So thank you, Mayor, thank you, councillors, and I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Councillors, I put this alternate motion up to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Those against, that's unanimous. Thank you. Carried. Moving on to the next item, 6.2.1, the Environment Quarterly Report. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Davies. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council notes the report.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Ross. Thank you, Councillor Ross. I'll go to Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Ross, for seconding my motion. I've withdrawn this for discussion to make it clear in front of our gallery that Council has a sustainable environment plan for 2008 to 2018, and recently councillors were provided an update. I was pleased to reflect on four key themes. Firstly, that we've been able to utilise the Working for Victoria program to get additional staff to council without any cost to our ratepayers. And these staff were able to provide the recycling audit, so inspecting recycling bins and issuing education letters about what should go in which bin. And also providing education programs and material around your green bins and your hard waste collections. We also were able to engage them for rubbish picking up, and also providing information leaflets to local real estate agents for new residents. And effective April onwards, until the middle of the middle of the year, we'll have an additional 10 Working for Victoria employees providing weeding. So Pepys Lane and Bunyip's Streamside Reserve are the current project sites. Further, there's specialised environmental education being undertaken at Deep Creek Reserve by a company called EcoLink, and they are linked to Swinburne Uni. So local primary schools, secondary schools and community groups are able to utilise this. Solar projects and maintenance of solar panels is proceeding, and significantly Council Civic Centre will be fitted next, and that will reduce our electricity consumption from the grid. So I'm very hopeful that we will expand on our work in the environment, sustainability and heritage during council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Davies, for withdrawing this item. Just looking through this item, I think it's rather unique that some of our programs are funded by council, but also too there's a group, a program called the Working for Victoria program, which has been doing some amazing work inside our Shire, doing a whole lot of things that council would like them to, we'd be able to fund ourselves. And fortunately they came along and the money got given to us by the state government, and some of it was allocated to doing some weed works up at Emerald Lake Park. They've gone through and done some work there. We've also got a clean-up area where they've done some work in that area. Also too, just highlighting for those out there in the community, the recycling audit that was done. It was good and it was disappointing in different areas. When it was looked through the recyclables, 71.21% were actually correctly put in the recycling bin. There was 27.79% contaminants put in the same bin, which is extremely disappointing, because when it comes to the cost to council, when it comes to what ratepayers pay to get rid of their waste, if you've got contaminated recyclables, you get charged, and sometimes you even get fined in your contract, and it costs you a heap of money extra that doesn't need to be paid. So I think it's really, really interesting. It is really good to learn where you need to put your recyclables. Unfortunately, during the time of COVID, where a lot of people were home and were putting more waste in their bins, it actually increased during that time, the contamination rate. So I would just encourage people in the community, please look through where you need to put your recyclables. It does actually save you money in your rate money that can be spent elsewhere. So anyway, I look forward to the next audit. I hope sincerely that people do try and make a difference in this area, and I'll leave some items for other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other further speakers? Thank you, Councillor Springfield.
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of realised, I was getting bored of not talking anymore. So, no, look, and my jacket's getting all caught on my chair. Anyway, I can ignore that. So, yeah, Environment Report, it's fantastic to see some of these great projects we're doing. I just want to quickly mention our green waste drop-off. And we do this twice a year. And we've offered this service for a number of years now, and it's great to see that this year saw the largest amount of green waste drop-off that we've ever had from our previous ones. And it equated to, there's 492 drop-offs in total, equating to 111.66 tonnes of material. And this is great to see because, look, I know a lot of people within our Shire, like burning off to get rid of their flammable material from the backyard and their green waste, so to speak. But it's not the best outcome for the environment. Seeing 111 tonnes of this material that council has enacted because we've made it free for people to drop off this waste each year is a wonderful achievement, and really goes towards our future plans of reducing carbon emissions and such. So I commend our council for having such a project, and I encourage the community to look out for the next one. I think it'll be around October, November will be the next green waste drop-off, and please utilise it. It's free for every resident to drop off, and they can do it as many times as they want within that period of a couple of days. So wonderful to see. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Springfield. Any other speakers? Before I'll go back to the mover, I'll just say a few things. The environmental education at Deep Creek. This is education takes place within the nursery and also the main building at Deep Creek. This is assisted by the Cardinia Environment Coalition, but EcoLink is a Victorian Government Science Excellence Centre who is providing these science excursions at Deep Creek. So traditionally, our students and even students from Gippsland had to cross the other side of the city to access these sorts of educational programs. And I had the honour of going down there just over a week ago and learning about the nursery and also learning about their EcoLink educational programs. And last year we know was very tough. These programs and lessons were run online, but now they can be done in person at Deep Creek, which is really good. So well done to EcoLink and the Cardinia Environment Coalition. Also, the Cardinia Creek Perry Urban Weed Management Partnership. So an additional $102,000 of funding has been made available to extend to the project to October 2021. So another $100,000, which is great to tackle weeds across along the Cardinia Creek, which is along Beaconsfield Guys Hill, which is great. And I also wanted to acknowledge the great work, as said by other councillors, about the Working for Victoria program. They are doing an amazing work. As part of COVID-19 recovery, this program is up and going, but they're going into some of our reserves and really, cleaning up some dump rubbish and general litter. It is fantastic. So I just commend the great work of those staff members under that program. Really good. I will go back to Councillor Davies to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for your support. I think it's really great work, but I think it's also important that we keep striving to improve environmental outcomes, and I look forward to the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Councillors, I put this item to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Next item is item 6.2.2, Performance and Growth Reports for the third quarter. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Davies. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I would move that Council notes the report.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. I'll go back to the mover, Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kozawick, for seconding my motion. Councillor Springfield, I'll try to talk as much as you have, but I think you've probably won that contest tonight. But the reason I've chosen to withdraw this report is to share with our community some significant information that it contains. Firstly, our population growth rate in Cardinia, it's reduced. So now only 3 households move in each day. So we're still growing, just not at the unprecedented rates that we have seen previously. Our subdivisions rate is also slowing, but not stopped. So we're still growing, but hopefully this now allows a little opportunity for catch-up, consolidation and reflection. Council's COVID-19 recovery work is continuing, and specific staffing to facilitate this has been allocated until the end of the financial year. The additional staffing specific to COVID was completed within Council's staffing budget without any additional expenditure. The work is still providing critical information within Council for services and information to organisations and individuals. The COVID Recovery Committee, chaired by Councillor Radford, continues to meet weekly, and a huge thank you to the numerous individuals involved. Our customer service levels, they are being actively monitored with best practice technological analysis tools. This analysis did show measurements well below our targeted service levels. But given we have just moved to new systems, we intend to watch this closely and expect to see significant improvements over the coming months. Finally, the council plan. So for the 2020 and 2021 financial year, there was 131 council plan actions. 18 are done, 19 are underway and on track, but there's 15 unlikely to be completed. The tasks are tabled, and there is a response and a plan to continue the work. We will expect they'll be rolled over into the next council plan and are predominantly due to usual project delays. I consider the unprecedented challenge with the pandemic as a factor outside our control, and consider the delivery of most actions is quite a good effort. But lastly, we are, as councillors know, we're actively working on the council plan and the council's strategic planning for this term, so 20 to 24, and this will include specific actions for next year's financial plan. We're now in our 3rd round of community consultation, and our People's Panel provided significant inputs. So I want to thank them, all volunteers, for assisting us with this. The council plan is a huge piece of work, and I'm confident that the due care, consultation and investment is occurring, and it will be at our June council meeting that we will consider and discuss the draft plan. So that just brings me to the end of my comments regarding the performance and growth reporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. I'll go to the seconder, Councillor Kowaczyk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I've seconded this item for the purpose of discussion, so nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this item? There being none, I will go to Councillor Davies to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kowaczyk. I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. So I put this item 6.2.2, Performance and Growth Reports for the 3rd quarter up for a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Those against, carried unanimously. Moving on to item 6.2.3, Quarterly Financial Report. This item has been withdrawn by, thank you, Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that Council notes the officer's report.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Can I second that? Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Going back to Councillor Davies. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Nearly 20 past 8 and we're all getting a little bit tired. I'm certainly not an accountant and this reporting can be very hard to understand and then even more challenging to recommunicate, but it is incredibly important that as a council we do ensure financial diligence within our duty as councillors. So for that reason, I have chosen to withdraw the report for visibility and discussion in front of our gallery. The report that was presented to us for this meeting prior to this meeting was the financial activity for the financial year up to the 31st of March 2021. So the result at the end of March is that we were in a surplus of $2.5 million, which was $5.7 million favourable to the budgeted deficit of $3.1 million. So the overall expenditure by council is $2.4 million under budget, which is seen mainly as a result of vacant positions, planned delayed recruitment and reduced overtime costs. Our materials and services expenditure too is $1.1 million under budget due to accessing grant funding. Now, the forecast, so that is what's expected for the next 3 months, is that council will end the financial year with a surplus of $3.7 million. I think this is quite a comfortable financial report, and I look forward to monitoring this as time continues. Just finally, our capital works project expenditure to the 31st of March, we spent $37.2 million, which was under budget due to the project delays. Largely, the teams have reported issues with material supply as a result of the pandemic, but also resourcing. Of note also, and most significantly, council offered rate payments to be put on hold for people who may have lost their jobs or their incomes, but these have mostly been paid. So that in itself is quite a positive outcome. It suggests that the financial circumstances for a lot of our property owners aren't as dire as was feared. So in conclusion, I do consider that the financial performance is favourable, and I'm certainly comfortable with that moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Going to the seconder, Councillor Kowalczyk. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Davies, for withdrawing this report. You're right, it is absolutely vital that we discuss these items in front of the gallery, and as such, that's why I've decided to second it. I just wanted to mention something that I noticed when considering this report, that council has committed approximately 76% of the $88.6 million full-year budget expenditure as at the 31st of March 2021, with 42% actually spent. Some of those projects of which council's committed funds to include the Comley Banks Recreation Reserve, the Emerald Netball Building Works, land acquisitions, plant replacements, Sealing the Hills program, works on footpath replacements, bridges replacements, upgrades, roads resealing, etc. And the reason I wanted to highlight that is it shows that this council is putting its money where its mouth is in terms of spending in the community, in helping the community recover from the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Any other speakers, councillors? Either for or against? There being none, I will go back to Councillor Davies to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. So I put this item 6.2.3, quarterly financial report, up to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Those against, that's carried unanimously. Moving on to item 6.2.4, major projects. This item has been withdrawn by Councillor Moore. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I move the officer's report and recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I'll go back to you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor, and I know it's not like me, but I'll be brief, quite brief. This is one of the great listings we have on our reports. It's like a progress report of projects that we're proud of, that are being fabricated or constructed throughout our Shire, and just it gives us a point to discuss or give reports to the gallery and our community of where we are with these. And I was only going to bring up one item, Mayor Owen, because I think there might be other items that other councils may want to discuss. I want to talk about the Head Road, 13 Mile Road, 7 Mile Road and Throats Road that have been resurfaced as per our Road to Recovery joint program with the Australian Government, a joint one with the Australian Government and our council. It's a great program. We've really some great programs in our sealed road construction in Cardinia, and it's only going to get better from here on, I'm sure. So these were successfully completed. They were supposed to be completed by the end of May, but they've actually been, they're ahead of schedule, which is really fantastic to see. And you drive some of these roads that they're in disrepair. It is really great to see that those projects happening. That's all I've got, Mr Mayor. I'm sure I'll hand it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Going to the seconder. Thank you, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. I'll be in support of this with Councillor Moore, and it's probably going to be up to me to say a few words. I've been very quiet tonight, so now it's for action. I really wanted to specially point out something that's really special, and in reference to some of the capital works programs, projects, especially some of the projects in our recently passing of Councillor Ray Brown and the work that he had done to get some of these projects up and running. He was very passionate about it, passionate about his community, and some of them were Kuirup Recreation Reserve, Football and Cricket Pavilion upgrade, which the project is due to be complete by around May 2021. The Kuirup Recreation Reserve Netball Pavilion upgrade, and that's completion around May. Kuirup Secondary School Pavilion, this project is due to be completed in June 2021. And so he's done some absolutely fantastic work. The Cochrane Park station platform works, the Kuirup Community Centre works design, skate park in Cochrane's Park, the tennis courts, construction and renewal. And they're just some of the things that Councillor Ray Brown was very passionate about, some of his projects. And some of the other projects that I'm really happy to see that have been a long time coming have been within our, well, probably my ward, and there's other councillors that will speak probably on reference to what's happening in their ward. It's always exciting for councillors to point out some of the things that they work really, really hard to do and advocate and have aspirations about. And it's all about working with our community and our residents and speaking to them and what they would like within the community, within reason, of course. So some of the things that will be happening in my ward are Pakenham Regional Tennis Centre Pavilion extensions. This project is fully funded by council. The project is to be completed in early November 2021. That's not far off. My Place Youth Facility. The funding, this project is jointly funded by council, the Victorian Government's Growing Suburbs Fund and the Australian Government. This project is anticipated to be completed in May 2022. So the youth are looking forward to that. It'll be a great extension to Pakenham itself. And I think that just all of those things tied up, and with all our other councillors, I really value everything that other councillors have put in and advocated really hard for, because we're not here to just sit here and not make decisions and not get our hands dirty and get out there and help our community. We're all very passionate about it, and I hope to hear from some of the other councillors and some of the projects that are happening in their wards. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I'll go to Councillor Radford first and then Councillor Davies. Thank you, Councillor Radford. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to highlight one item, the Timbertop Integrated Children's Centre. This is a kindergarten with consulting rooms for professionals such as maternal health, child and health, etc. This is a very anticipated project within that area. Previously on the major projects report, it has said that it will be due for completion for the start of the kinder year in 2022. I'm raising this because the report now says the project is due for completion by May 2022. So I've had residents just sort of asking the question of, is this going to be ready for the start of the kinder year, because they want to enrol their children. So I just wanted to publicly say that this is an item that I'm following up on and watching keenly, and once I can get further clarification on that, I will let people know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford. Councillor Davies.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm the ward councillor for Tumac, which is most easily explained as Pakenham West and Officer East. So within Tumac, council is creating the Officer District Park. A significant project. It'll have a skate park, walking tracks, a downhill mountain bike track, parkour facilities, fitness equipment, and a cafe, because you'll be very hungry after doing all that exercise. Council funded the design and planning, and the construction will come from both council funding and a contribution from the state. And construction is planned to start in August. So this is a fantastic project for our community and all of Cardinia. Further, it's great to note that the upgraded car parking at Cardinio Road Station is due for completion later this year, all fully state funded, but very helpful for our residents. And the Monash Freeway Stage 2 upgrade is progressing on track, and we are informed it'll be finished mid-2022, which can't come soon enough. But finally, within Tumac Ward, we are very metropolitan. We're quite well progressed in our development of our housing estates, but there is still catch up with our parks, our footpaths and other infrastructure. And I will continue to represent the residents within Tumac Ward and look forward to finishing our amazing area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies, and I thank you for raising the Officer District Park, and I note that we have members of the Officer and District Community Association in the gallery, so we look forward to that upgrade. It's going to be fantastic, that park in Officer. Great views. I'll go to Councillor Kowalczyk to say some words. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Moore, for withdrawing this item. As a councillor for all of Cardinia, I'd like to mention a project that is not in my ward, but an event I attended as a proud Pakenham resident and Cardinia Shire councillor. I didn't mention this last month, so I wanted to bring this up, and I noticed it was still in the agenda. Last month, I attended the opening of the Cardinia Road Community Recreation Space under the new bridge, along with our Mayor and local member, Jordan Crinali. This was a well-attended event and provides some great passive spaces for people who live in and around the area. The project was fully funded by the state government. The works are obviously completed, but the reason I wanted to mention is just to encourage people who live around that area to get out there and use the space. It's one of the greater outcomes that come from the overpass, so really want to encourage people to get out there and use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Any other speakers? Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. Just going back to highlight something that was brought up in Cooey-Rup is for anyone who reads through the report, they'll see that the Cooey-Rup Secondary School Pavilion is of a modular design, and I must say Councillor Brown was a huge one for trying to work out ways that we didn't design things specifically all the time, something new. So we're always going out asking for new designs and putting aside hundreds of thousands of dollars for new designs all the time. So we ventured around and we looked at all the modular buildings that are out there, and this is, I believe, probably our first modular building, and it says that it's commenced on site, so it'll be great to see that. We have seen many others, and they're very, very successful. They're easily built on onto each other. If you need to build on even further, they just basically come together, and you just add as much as you want. They do come at a significant discount, which means that you can actually do more in the community with the money that's saved. Also, too, just piggybacking on the some of the other things that have been brought up, I must say the Cardinia road level crossing removal is absolutely sensational, and I just can't wait for the other 3 crossings to go, hopefully sooner than later. Also, too, I must say the Monash Freeway upgrade, I certainly hope it's done earlier than later as well, because from anyone who goes up and down that part of the road, and particularly the other day when it was really sad that there was a massive accident there and the whole freeway had to be shut down and then people had to go other ways, I hope that's finished as soon as possible. I must say, with that freeway upgrade, there will be a full diamond put in the Beaconsfield exchange, and O'Shea Road will be connected to the Princess Highway extension in this area. So for the people down in the Beaconsfield area, that will be a huge improvement, because at the moment it's really convoluted in the way that it came about. It wasn't, I don't think, designed initially to do what it's been doing, but with this it will make it so much more accessible for people who live in those areas to come back towards Warragul, and to move around so much easier without sourcing the local roads. Anyway, I look forward to those 2 projects being completed and further ones, and I look forward to seeing the modular design of that pavilion and hoping that it works out as successful as the other ones, and then we might look to do it in other areas. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Any other speakers? Before I go back to Councillor Moore, I just want to say some brief things. We did talk about the Upper Beaconsfield Recreation Reserve Building Master Plan. So as I said before, that's underway at the moment. I did omit to mention that this proposed new facility will also be for the wider general community, for meeting spaces, and also the Upper Beaconsfield equestrian clubs that are based at the reserve. So I look forward to those designs being developed. Also, a separate project on the reserve is the Upper Beaconsfield Rec Reserve public toilets. Anyone who's been to the reserve is that those facilities are not up to scratch. So we did get an Australian government grant to upgrade those toilets. So those are progressing, and we're aiming for the toilets to be installed and completed around about mid-year. Also, I just wanted to talk about our Princess Highway intersection upgrades. Anyone who goes through Beaconsfield knows the situation of these upgrades, but really pleasing that O'Neill Road intersection physical works are nearing completion. I know this week they're doing the final asphalting. That is a big intersection. If you have a look at that connected with the roundabout, it is a big intersection with improved pedestrian links as well, but that's on track. Also, Glissman Road intersection, as you would have seen, civil works are now complete. Signals and public lighting have been installed, and we're just waiting for the commissioning from Department of Transport and also AusNet. So that's looking good. Detailed design reviews by the Department of Transport have commenced for the Brunt Road future upgrade, the Tivendale future upgrade, and the Bayview Road intersections, with tenders for the first of these intersections due to be called towards the middle of 2021. The remaining 3 intersection projects are in the early stages of design. So as I keep saying to residents down that way, short-term pain for long-term gain for these intersections. And I do thank the Australian Government for their commitment to these intersections as well. Just on page 185, playground renewal works, and at the moment Council's renewing the playgrounds at Redwood Road, Gembrook, Kath Roberts Reserve in Beaconsfield, and the Keith Ewanson Reserve in Upper Beaconsfield. And I know the one in Beaconsfield is well underway and it's looking good so far. The community is generally excited about what these upgrades do for local families. I know that too well. Every time we go through that reserve, that park, my family, during a school day, my little 2-year-old daughter says, playground, when is it going to be open, sort of thing. So, and I know it's a general consensus that these upgrades are really appreciated by the community. They get designed by local children. They designed the playground aspect, the play-space aspect. I know the local school was consulted, and also local kindergartens or childcare centres in the area. So those are progressing. I'm so looking forward to them to be completed. That is all, councillors. I will go to councillors Moore to sum up.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for the theatrics, Mayor Owen. Well done. What was the term? It was short-term pain, long-term gain. Well done. Short-term pain, long-term gain. Okay. So there's no more pain for me. I'm going to get off. It was just I started the first item. I'm going to finish the last one. I want to thank the councillors. I want to thank Councillor Carol Ryan actually for the second, and your enthusiastic talk about Councillor Brown and his legacies that he's leaving behind, and I'm sure that community were thankful for Councillor Brown's input into his community. He did a fantastic job there. And all the other councillors who spoke tonight, I was disappointed in Councillor Springfield didn't get a shot, but that's the way it goes. But anyway, thank you, councillors, and thank you, Mayor Owen. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. I put this item to a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Right, councillors. I request that we resolve to omit an urgent business item to address the tragic road fatalities within our Shire. So, councillors, can I have a mover to allow this item to be discussed? Moved by Councillor Kowaczyk, seconded by Councillor Davies. I'll put that up to allow that to be treated as urgent business. All those in favour, please indicate. Thank you. Against? That's carried. Thank you. So, councillors, this week is National Road Safety Week. Last week, our region, the area of Cardinia, Casey and Greater Dandenong, passed the grim milestone of 20 fatalities on this road this year, thus far. In addition, those who lost their lives in this period, another 271 community members sustained serious injuries from these road incidences. 12 of these fatalities were in Cardinia Shire, 12 of the 20 in our division. 12 of those fatalities were on arterial roads. None of those fatalities are acceptable in our community. These are staggering and sorrowful numbers, and we know they are not just numbers. Any death from a road incident is too many for our community. Our sincerest thoughts and condolences are with the families and friends of those who have lost loved ones. As a council, we can and do support and undertake a range of programs and initiatives towards improving road safety in our Shire. This includes road safety and speed awareness programs and campaigns, programs such as Looking After Our Mates, learner driving programs and bike education, Driver Expo events, including the upcoming Seniors Drivers Expo. Ongoing joint operations with Victoria Police, including the Act Safe, Stay Safe program. School and student road safety education programs. A range of road improvement works to council roads through the Better Local Roads program, and advocating for further upgrades to our arterial and major roads that will improve road safety for our community. But despite these efforts, road trauma is still an unacceptable and tragic presence in our community. So this is National Road Safety Week. Not only does Council support the Road Safety Week pledge to drive so others survive, but I strongly encourage everyone in our community to take the pledge to drive safely, to keep yourselves and others safe on the road. And the pledge reads, National Road Safety Pledge. I pledge to drive as if my loved ones are on the road ahead. I will remove all distractions and never use my mobile phone while driving. I will not put other people at risk by speeding, driving while tired, or under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I will protect all vulnerable road users, especially those whose job places them in harm's way, by slowing down and giving them space they need to be safe. So, councillors, I propose the following motion: that Council reaffirms its commitment to working and advocating where necessary towards improving road safety in Cardinia, and that Council officers explore how we can best respond to and support road safety initiatives, with a report to be presented to Council that includes proposed actions for Council's consideration in regarding to increasing awareness of road safety in Cardinia Shire. So, councillors, I move that notice of motion. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Davies. Are there any councillors wishing to speak to that? I'll go to you, Councillor Davies, first.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate my support to what your pledge and also to utilising council staff and expertise to actually improve our advocacy and act. Every road crash is sad, and I would really like, and it's a rare person who hasn't been touched by the road toll, and a huge thanks to the emergency services workers that are patching people back together, and I want to express my personal condolences to the many local families that right now are affected by losses or people with serious injuries, because it's not a nice space to be, and that human factor is that's far too much in our community. So thank you for raising this, and I do support your motion.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other councillors wishing to speak to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Moore.
Thank you, Mayor. It just shows you that the first item we had tonight, as I withdrew, is the South Eastern Australia Transport Strategy Group. And that group there, it just shows you that's what we need to do. So rejoining that as a membership, I think, will reinforce what we have to do in behind the scenes of these car accidents. But I want to point out one thing. The Narnagoon Rescue Team, which is a fantastic group of volunteers that a lot of people may not realise, but the only CFA rescue team other than SES in Cardinia is the Narnagoon Rescue Group, going to the accidents. And, you know, they see some sights. I was speaking with them the other day, over the evening, because they received some new equipment, $350,000 worth of new equipment, battery-operated jaws of life. Unbelievable equipment without having to use their truck to run these things, and they can get there quickly and attend these accidents. We don't want to see them happen, but we want to see them, the people injured, alleviated out of their vehicles as quick as possible, and that's what these machines will do. So it's a fantastic group of volunteers. They were really great to see them the other night, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Any other speakers? Before I put the motion, I do like to thank councillors, Councillors Davies and also Councillor Moore, for your comments. I also thank our emergency services. I note what you said, Councillor Davies, regarding emergency services and the road rescue. Also our obviously our police, other brigades, and the state emergency service. We've got two in Cardinia. So thank you, councillors. I will put that motion up for a vote. All those in favour, please indicate. You. Those against, carried unanimously. Moving on to the remaining of the agenda. Reports or minutes of committees. I note that reports from various committees have been received in addition to the minutes of recent council briefing sessions, and these are available if any councillors wish to view them. Moving on to councillor reports. Councillors, this is your opportunity. You may wish to outline some of your activities. Thank you, Councillor Davies, and then Councillor Radford, and we'll keep going around the room.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to speak briefly about the Cardinia Access and Inclusion Committee. This is a wonderful committee that meets quarterly, and it brings together people across the Shire with disabilities or people who are carers of people with disabilities. And fortunately, Council has invested in a disability liaison officer and actually has a disability action plan underway, including engagement. So pop-up sites have been occurring. We're seeking feedback and we're trying to build connections. This is an area where we can do so much more, and I would urge as many people as possible that may have disabilities or carer roles to make their voices heard. The easiest way to do this is via Council's website. We've got a survey at the moment, so please get involved, whether or not you'd like to join the committee or just make contact with us. We are here to support you. An inclusive Shire is a huge priority. Likewise, the Community Leadership Training Program was launched last week, and it's now in its 4th year. Myself and Councillor Kowalczyk actually had the pleasure of speaking to students last Saturday. We were asked some very tough questions. We were asked to share personal stories and shared authenticity, finding your why, what's your motivation, and how sometimes you need to do what's right, not what's easy. For those looking for some new reading, Councillor Kowalczyk and I quoted The Count of Monte Cristo, Brené Brown and Harry Potter. I had a really great morning. The students have all been selected on the basis of their commitment to Cardinia's community. I'm really excited for them and for our community to reap these benefits, and also want to pass on my thanks to Leadership Victoria to provide this opportunity for growth to the local residents. I do expect some of the other councillors may also comment on the community leadership program too, because there was another event that I wasn't a part of. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davies, for sharing that. Councillor Radford first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Firstly, I just wanted to acknowledge that today is the start of National Volunteer Week, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the amazing volunteers across our Shire. The significant contribution of all our volunteers across the Shire makes to our community, plays a vital role in our everyday lives. Thank you. That includes, as we were just talking about, some emergency services, all volunteer ran. This month I wanted to take a moment to focus on the Cardinia Community Recovery Committee. The committee was formed in January 2021 and is comprised of some incredible community members or volunteers and myself as chair. The committee also has support from council officers, Thuk Ajak and Marie Peters. This committee is part of the Council's COVID-19 Pandemic Response and Recovery Team, which includes the following action teams: Mental Health and Wellbeing Action Team, Financial Vulnerability Action Team, Family Violence Action Team, and the Public Safety Action Team. The purpose of the Community Recovery Committee is to support and advocate for community interests and aid recovery. After community consultation, the committee identified that social isolation and trouble reconnecting was a big issue, so agreed to organise some community events with the aim to encourage community participation, social connection and reduce isolation. These events are to be held at Bridgewood Primary School Officer, Sunday the 30th of May, and Living Learning Pakenham, Saturday the 19th of June. These events are free, including free food and entertainment, and you can find out more details on the Cardinia Shire website and Facebook page. Committee member Annie is a Torres Strait Islander and has organised 2 special screenings of the acclaimed documentary In My Blood It Runs, and these screenings are to be held at the Pakenham Library on Wednesday the 26th of May and Thursday 3rd of June starting at 6 p.m. Bookings are essential for these screenings, and you can go to the Cardinia Shire website and Facebook page for bookings. Annie also conducted an open discussion with residents at Meadowvale Retirement, and I thank Councillor Ryan for attending that with us. We thank all the residents for their open and honest discussion on how they are coping as a result of the COVID pandemic. We're currently collating these responses and will provide answers to their questions very shortly. I would like to personally thank each and every one of the amazing members on this committee. This has been a high-level, high-commitment committee, and as volunteers, each member should be proud of the hard work and dedication they've put into it. I would also like to thank council officers Marie Parker and Thutch Ajak for their hard work and support for this committee. No order has been too tall for them, and their assistance has been invaluable. As Councillor Davies brought up, the launch of the 2021 Cardinia Community Leadership Program was last Wednesday. As an alumni of the program, I had the privilege to attend the launch and share my experiences as a participant of the program. And I have no doubt that this group will deliver amazing clan projects as part of that program, and I'm really looking forward to catching up with them at their graduation to hear about their experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Radford, for your detailed report. Councillor Kowalczyk.
Thank you, Mayor. Last week, Councillor Radford and myself attended the Ash Wednesday Bushfire Education Centre after an invitation from former Councillor Letitia Wilmot. I'd just like to say thank you for that tour and presentation, and encourage members of our community to visit the centre for a really informative and educational experience. It's so important to keep these historically important and symbolic sites around Cardinia alive and thriving. I'd also like to thank the volunteers who keep the place alive. Opening night of Pakenham Art Show, 28th of May 2021 at the Cultural Centre. That is coming up, so please, if you're interested in that, get on down there. I'm sure they would appreciate the support. I'd like to also encourage all members of our community to get online and get involved in the Your Ground project. The Your Ground project, as I'm sure you've probably seen in the wider media, is a statewide initiative running collaboration with Monash Uni's XYX Lab, CrowdSpot and several local councils across Victoria, including Cardinia. Council officers are putting a lot of stock into this project, so please, members of the community, if you have anywhere in Cardinia that you feel is unsafe, please get online and use that map. The map is already up and running, will be open till Saturday the 31st of July, at which point the information and data will be gathered. So still a little bit of time there, but please, if there's any parks or streets or neighbourhoods that you feel unsafe in, get online and put it on the map. That'll really help to add to Council's database. As Councillor Davies mentioned, the Cardinia Community Leadership Program, the Saturday session that we were lucky enough to attend, it was really pretty special. I also want to thank Leadership Victoria for running the program, and the residents who put their hand up and stepped forward to actively take part. I believe the future of our Shire is in good hands. And finally, as Councillor Radford mentioned, in recognition of National Volunteer Week, I'd like to mention that on Thursday night we have the volunteer reception and the Stan Henwood Awards. I look forward to catching up with some of the volunteers within Cardinia Shire on the night, and also finding out who the winner is of the prestigious Stan Henwood Award. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Councillor Kowalczyk. Any other speakers? True. Thank you, Councillor Wright.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. Again, this is a really great part for residents to hear what councillors have been doing within our community, things behind the scene that we get involved in, and some of it's a lot of fun, some of it can be dirty work by digging soil out and helping kids plant plants. So, but we're all willing to give it a shot. So, on the 22nd of April, we had our 4th year anniversary of Women's Friendship Cafe in Pakenham. Councillor Radford was there, and she got to see us in action, and then to find out that you now have one in Officer that is going to be a really great asset to your part of the community. And it's about women coming together from all different cultures, some women that have been abused within their family environment, within society, full stop. And it gives them a safe place to talk about how they feel, what they think, and then learn new trades. You know, some of them might know how to use a sewing machine, and there's someone there to help them. Doing patchwork. There's all lots of cooking, swapping recipes, talking about raising your children and some of the good things that are out there in the community. And it's also a way of giving the women the opportunity to have that information that they may not know. So it's a great place, and it's held every Thursday between 10 till 12. And so it's, it's always great to go there and catch up with them on a regular basis. On the 24th of April, of course, we had our Anzac service, and so I was at the service on the day, and then I got to spend time at the RSL in Pakenham, and got to speak to a lot of diggers over time, and talking about their stories and how they got through some of their experiences and what they deal with today. It was great feedback. And then following that, Councillor Ross and myself went over to the Cardinia Recreation Reserve, where there was an Australian versus New Zealand rugby teams playing. Unfortunately, we weren't asked to play in the game, so, I think that was a bit unfair. So I was really looking forward to getting the Guernsey on and getting out there. Not that I'd do much, I'd probably just stand there and throw the ball. But it was great to see so many people there and enjoying the day. It was a great family day. And again, meeting up with people from different environments when it comes to the Anzac. On the 27th of April, Pakenham Scouts Hall. The Mayor and myself were there, and Jason Wood. And I was a bit disappointed because they both got scarves given to them, and I missed out. Somewhere along the line that I was miscounted there, wasn't I? But yes, you had to give it back. But great to see the kids. It was about the upgrades to the building, the new floors, and all the insides of the building, and having a sausage sizzle and sitting around pretty much campfire without a campfire, but getting to enjoy spending time with the children, which was a lot of fun and a lot of laughter. And again, on the 29th, Meadowvale with the seniors there. Interesting day. Some of the questions, their answers were quite unique. Well, we were doing well because the manager did our shopping, got the staff to do our shopping, and they looked after us. So we don't know what you're talking about. We survived quite well. But then they gave some great input. And some of the other committees, mental health and wellbeing partnership strategic meeting, a really, really important meeting. As a lot of people in the community know, I've been working on this project over 4 years now. And with the Royal Commission, things are looking good. Funding is starting to come down our way, and we're still advocating pretty intensely. And I've also got my conference coming up in the end of June, the 2-day conference in the city, interacting with a lot of international specialists with mental health. So it's about the way that I see it is that I want to help people to be less afraid, to be part of the fight against a brain disease. And that's what it is. It's a disability. And so many people, as we know, COVID has brought it to the surface, but also in reference to our diggers too, and what they need and to serve the services that they haven't been getting down this way. So that's what we're pushing for. And lastly, I had my injection. The COVID injection 2 weeks ago, and I'm fine, I'm okay, so I would encourage everyone to go and have their injections, because the GPs now have got them out there. So speak to your GP, and don't be afraid, it doesn't hurt. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan, for your report. Any other councillors wishing to speak? Thank you, Councillor Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to highlight, I went on a tour not so long back with the General Manager of Infrastructure and Environment, Peter Benezek, and I took him on an extensive tour around the ward, having a look at many different things. I must say, Peter must have the magic hand, because within a short amount of time, we had fence posts painted and repaired. We had the frog fences repaired. He assures me he didn't do all of this himself. He had a great team from the Working Victoria people come and help out. There was a large pile of unfinished landscaping that was there with the Southern End Bridge. I couldn't work out why they didn't actually push it over at the time when they were doing it. And I actually said if my dad still had one of his bobcats, I would have got on it myself and just pushed it all over. But he managed to get that done as well. He'd been driving bobcats at 7 anyway. That wouldn't have been too hard. I must say as well, we had some playground repairs, and some of those have been repaired and some of them are still in progress. I must say, I know that most of our councillors have taken up the opportunity to go out with our staff to go on tours of the wards, so they can show them only the detailed things that they would know about their own personal ward. I think that's a really good thing, because it lets the community know that you're actually in cahoots with the operations side of the council where things get done. So it's not just we talk about them, but we actually talk to the people who get things done. That was really good. Also too, I'd like to just mention that I went with Councillor Ryan and we attended the Anzac Day Cardinia Recreational Reserve Australia versus New Zealand in the Masters Games. And I must say I play Masters AFL, but this was Masters Rugby League. I must say, I find it interesting. Councillor Ryan said she wouldn't have minded being on the field. I must say I'd rather play football than I would rugby, because some of these guys went real hard and they had different. It's really interesting. If you're 50-year-old, you wear a tag on the side of your pants and a different coloured shorts so you don't get tackled. You only get touched. If you're 45, you wear another ribbon, which means they can sort of tackle you and just sort of pull you down. And then if you're 35, they just belt the hell out of you and ram you into the ground in some uncertain way. So I wasn't encouraged too much. I was happy to watch them. I must say they were really excited about being able to do something. And for some of these guys to wear an Australian Guernsey, and I've got one at home to present to the council that they gave us for council to remember that day. They're extremely excited about Lee Cumley Bank's rugby fields down there, that next year they might be able to come back if they're ready to go and use those facilities. I know Rugby Victoria or Rugby Australia were absolutely excited about that opportunity. And lastly, I'd like to just mention council attended Councillor Brown's funeral, which was a celebration of an amazing life. But also like to say I thought Councillor Moore did an amazing job representing council on a very, very hard day for him, because he knew Ray so well, like many of us, but we didn't have to get up there and MC the event. I'd like to thank Councillor Moore for doing that on behalf of council. And therein all's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross, so much for your report. Thank you. Any other councillors? Just before we go to close the meeting, I just want to also thank you, Councillor Bradford and Councillor Kowalczyk, for mentioning Volunteers Week. Well said. We wouldn't be the place we are, Cardinia Shire, without our volunteers, and I'm looking forward to the reception this Thursday. I know we can only have 250, but I do hope that people who can come along to that reception where we celebrate and thank our volunteers. The Australian Red Cross is coming to Pakenham, so if you are in the position to give blood, please do. I've got my appointment this week. Also, thank you, councillors, for your reports regarding Anzac Day. We had a number of Anzac services across our Shire. I know it was a challenge for the organisers with having COVID restrictions, and I know a lot of organisers really worried about that, you know, regarding compliance and so forth like that. So well done to all those, whether it's an RSL or a community group that undertook these ceremonies and events. And I attended Lang Lang for the dawn service. That was really great. I also attended the Upper Beak service later on in the morning. It was good. And the week before, I attended the Anzac service at Beaconsfield. They hold their service on the Sunday before Anzac Day. And I attended a football match with Council Springfield at Emerald. The Anzac game between Emerald and Gembrook. It was really good. They do it really well, the Emerald RSL, in events. They organised a flyover of some historic war planes, amazing. Also, this massive cannon, which got everyone by surprise. And yes, and a few swear words were said at that point of time when the cannon went off. But it was really, really good. So well done to all our community groups behind that. We saw the eventual opening of the upgraded change rooms at Perth Allison Reserve in Beaconsfield. That was really great to officially open that. I did join the MND walk, which was organised by a local Pakenham family, Joe, Sonia. Amazing walk. I think they raised almost $50,000 for that morning. It was a really good event about raising funds for motor neuron disease. So well done to them. I did have an opportunity to join our Cardinio Environment Coalition, and with Mr. Tony O'Hara at the back there, to understand what the coalition does along in Guys Hill regarding the pristine bush in Guys Hill, the management of that beautiful bit of country. So thank you to the CEC. I also had an opportunity to visit the nursery during the plant giveaway. I attended the Men's Shed cluster meeting for our area of West and I think South Gippsland. They held their conference in Upper Beak. It was really good how men's sheds came together to share their experiences and talk about grant opportunities, etc. Last Thursday, I attended an online heritage festival by the Casey Cardinia Local History Group, and I thought that was really good. Obviously, COVID, when they planned this event, was restrictions were still underway, so they decided to have an online event, which went for most of the day, and that is all recorded as well if people wants to view those guest speakers and those issues that was raised. So I thought that was really good. And finally, this Sunday, I went to the Cardinia Cultural Centre. Local artist Sue Jarvis from Gembrook is having an exhibition there, amazing exhibition of 60 art pieces of her work. And it was really great to get feedback from the community regarding that exhibition space, which is really good for our art community. So thank you, councillors. So, councillors, are there any petitions that any councillor wishes to table? There being none, we've done community questions. There's no councillor questions as well. So thank you, gallery. Thank you, people listening in online. Thank you, councillors, for your attendance today and watching. I now declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Good night, everyone.